For more than a century, the United States has been, without a doubt, the world's dominant force. But have you ever stopped to ask, how? How did it actually get there? Well, today, we're going to break down that incredible story, the rise of America to superpower status.
Okay, let's kick things off with a little pop quiz. First up, which country has the world's biggest economy? We're talking a GDP that's blasted past $20 trillion.
And what about military might? Which nation has the most powerful, most technologically advanced fighting force on the entire planet?
And last one, think about culture. Whose movies, whose music, whose brands have pretty much spread to every corner of the globe?
Yeah, you guessed it, the United States of America. But look, that's the what. Knowing that isn't the really interesting part. The real story, the one we're diving into, is the how. It's a journey packed with ideology, world-changing wars, and some seriously calculated power plays.
So, to really get this, we've got to rewind the clock all the way back to the beginning. We need to look at the ideas and the ambitions that literally laid the groundwork for an empire. It all starts back in the late 1700s with two key documents. First, you've got the Declaration of Independence, which gave the new nation its purpose, its ideals. Then comes the Constitution, which gave it a stable government, a framework to build on. But then, fast forward to the 1840s, and this incredibly powerful new idea just explodes onto the scene: manifest destiny. This was the belief that America was actually destined by God to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific, coast to coast.
And at first, this expansion was all about attraction. America's model of democracy was like a huge magnet. Take Texas, for example. After it won its independence from Mexico, it looked around and chose to join the US in 1845. Why? It was looking for freedom and stability.
But, and this is a big but, expansion wasn't always a friendly invitation. The US also started acting a lot like a classic empire. It bought Alaska from Russia, sure, but then in 1898, it did something far more aggressive. It actually overthrew the independent Kingdom of Hawaii and annexed it by force. See, this was a whole different kind of growth, one built on raw power, not just persuasion.
Okay, so with the continent pretty much secured, America started looking outward. And the 20th century, well, that's when its economic power just exploded onto the global stage, largely because of the absolute devastation of two world wars.
Think about it. While Europe and Asia are just being torn apart, America is basically protected by two giant oceans. This amazing geographic luck allowed it to become what they called the arsenal of democracy, just pumping out weapons, vehicles, and food for the Allies. So, while much of the world burned, the American economy absolutely roared to life.
And the results of this were, well, they were stark. Just look at this chart. While the great powers of Europe saw their economies left in ruins, the US economy shot up to heights nobody had ever seen before. It was the only major nation to come out of those wars way richer and more powerful than it went in.
This incredible economic power was officially locked in place in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference. This was a total game changer. There, 44 allied nations made a historic deal. They would all peg their currencies to the US dollar. Just like that, boom, the dollar became the world's reserve currency, putting America right at the center of the entire global financial system.
So, America's rich, its economy is dominant, but now it faces a brand new challenge. It came out of World War II as one of two global superpowers, which locked it into a 50-year ideological battle with the other one, the Soviet Union.
And this was the Cold War. It wasn't a war of armies clashing on a battlefield, not directly anyway. It was a war of ideas. On one side, you had American capitalism and democracy. On the other, Soviet communism and authoritarianism. And because they couldn't risk a nuclear war, they fought through proxies, backing opposite sides in conflicts all over the world.
A key weapon in this whole struggle was covert action. A lot of this fight was happening in the shadows, run by the CIA. Their job was to stop Soviet influence from spreading, so they funded coups in places like Iran and Bolivia, they backed anti-communist rebels in Afghanistan, and they intervened in the politics of countries from the Congo to Chile. It was a global shadow war, all designed to keep the world tilted in America's favor.
For more than 40 years, this global chess match defined everything. And then, in 1991, the game just ended. The Soviet Union collapsed, and with its great rival gone, America was left as the undisputed winner, the world's one and only superpower.
So, America had won. End of story, right? Well, not exactly. Because this is where the story gets really complicated. See, holding on to that superpower status came with a staggering price tag, creating this deep, deep paradox between America's power in the world and its problems at home.
Just think about this number for a second. Over 800. That's how many military bases the United States has in more than 70 countries around the globe. That is a global military footprint that no empire in history has ever matched. It's just staggering.
Okay, so hold that image of global power in your mind. Now let's contrast it with the picture back home. Inside the US, the wealthiest 1% of the population controls nearly 43% of the nation's total wealth. That makes it one of the most economically unequal countries in the entire developed world.
And this inequality isn't just some abstract number. While America is pouring trillions of dollars into its global military presence, the country itself is dealing with crippling student debt, the highest healthcare costs of any developed nation, and levels of gun violence that are just completely off the charts compared to its peers.
So all of this really leads us to one fundamental question. America's journey to the top was incredible, built on expansion, economic genius, and a Cold War victory. But it also came with a price, measured in trillions for military might, while huge problems were left to fester back home. Which leaves us with this final thought. Is being a superpower actually worth the cost?